Other news, Mozambican parliament has ratified a peace deal aimed at ending nearly 2 years of low-level warfare between the government and the armed opposition party Renamo ahead of elections on October 15th. Well, that agreement signed by lower-level representatives was confirmed by President Armando Guebuza and Renamo leader Afonso Dhlakama last week. Well, it paves the way for the integration of Renamo fighters, estimated at a few hundred, into the army and police force, to which they will hand over their weapons. Helmut Heitman is an independent defense analyst and he joins us on the line now. Good afternoon, Helmut, and thank you for your time on the PM News Desk.
Good afternoon, pleasure.
Look, the agreement foresees the integration of Renamo fighters. We know there are about a few hundred into the army and police force, but it does not give a definite timetable for the disarmament process. How likely is Renamo to hold up their end of the deal?
Well, they didn't last time, arguing that the government wasn't. So I suspect they will keep some people out of this. Probably, in fact, if they're clever from their point of view, they will keep the best people out. So if things don't go the way they want them to go, then they can restart and they have experienced and properly trained people who can take up the training of new guerrillas. I would expect them to keep at least a proportion out of this.
Elections are around the corner, and well, the battle looks to be much more complex than any since the Civil War. Few expect Renamo or its leader Dhlakama to win these polls. He just won 16% in the 2009 polls against President Guebuza's 75%. And now that he's out of hiding, well, he does face a mammoth task ahead of him. How hard will he have to work here to rekindle his political structures?
Heck, I think he would have to work superhumanly hard to actually have any chances of winning or coming close to winning. But I think his strategy has been not to win, not to become president, but to grab a share of the action, you might say, in terms of cash income from national resources for his supporters. That's, I believe, why he restarted at a low level the insurgency. A lot of people said at the time, quite correctly, that Renamo didn't have the strength to get a proper guerrilla war going, but they didn't have to if that was a strategy, because sitting in Sofala province, he basically sits on the jugular and can really hurt the Mozambican economy. And I think from his point of view, he's achieved what he wanted. The agreement in public is just that they'll incorporate his people in the army, that a couple of other concessions. I suspect there's much more that's not been talked about, that Renamo followers will get a share of the offshore gas income, for instance. And he's always got in his back pocket the threat, if it doesn't work, if the government doesn't keep its promise, he can again apply pressure on the jugular in the Sofala province, which is again why I think also he'll keep some of his people out of any settlement.
But it hasn't been a walk in the park for the ruling Frelimo either. They have enjoyed a hold on power for decades, but the conflict is taking a toll here. To what extent do you think has Mr. Guebuza's support being dented, especially by the countrywide protests we saw last year against crime? And he also took a knock facing bitter public criticism over his handling of the insurgency.
Look, I think he's taken a knock, but I don't think he faces any real political threat. He should win the election quite comfortably. And I'm afraid, like a lot of politicians, once they win, they don't bother to think about the next election until it's just around the corner. So he may actually make the mistake of not seizing the opportunity now and building things properly so by the next election there's less opposition and less criticism. I think that's possibly where the danger lies. But I don't see any real risk to him in the election. He'll win the election. He may have a bit of a problem in the next government in the sense that there may be more Renamo people physically in parliament to harass him. But he should win it, he should walk it. The question is whether he's going to be wise enough to use this period to really lay a foundation for the future.
Let's talk about very quickly the fledgling MDM. Now, they won 3 out of Mozambique's major cities in the November polls. Is it a sign of times to come, do you think? They do seem to be proving to be a force to be reckoned with. As with the newer parties' sustainability skill, do they have what it takes to survive, do you think?
Not enough of an expert on Mozambique to know, but what I seem to be seeing there is a thing not untypical of a lot of developing countries, where you're starting to see a political split between the urban class and the rural class. And that can be very difficult for a government to manage, because your bulk voters that are easily accessed are in the cities. But depending on your population mix, you might actually have more voters outside. or possibly more dangerous, it's the ones outside who can become difficult by cutting bits of the country off from the rest. So MDM, certainly if it can hold on to its cities and grab a few more, it's going to be a force that has to be reckoned with, because if it takes them in the parliamentary elections, it can also have the local city government, and then the management of those big cities depends on an opposition party. And that's a very tricky situation for a governing party to find itself in. So definitely a force to be reckoned with for the future.
Helmut Heitman is an independent analyst. Thank you for your time on the PM News Desk.